Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly Potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor, along with Rick Brewing. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. We've got a wrap up to the NFL season with the Super Bowl coming to a conclusion, maybe how that affects the Bengals and what we could have learned from that. We've got a Bengals offseason exercise to talk about rebuilding the roster. We've got a lot of college basketball to discuss, including a second Big 12 coach that's sure to be fired after the season is over with, and much, much more. Of course, my favorite portion of the podcast where you can ask me a question on anything. Just go to the Xverse, hit up the hashtag AskSkinnyAnything. It does not have to be a sports topic. It can be. It sometimes is a good one, and sometimes it's a funny one. So whatever you want to ask away. Rick, you're soon to head to Indianapolis to broadcast the game tonight, so we will knock this thing out, and you can be on your merry way with your day.
Yeah, I can't believe you want to fire Bill Self. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's who was on my mind.
Yeah, let's start with the Big 12 and the Bearcats here at college basketball. Interesting week for UC.
The 90-point per game Bearcats at the moment.
Right. I mean, they beat UCF by 20, 92-72, and you're thinking, okay, good for them. Nice vibes. Who knows how many wins are left on that schedule? Let's see what happens the rest of the way. And then they blow out Kansas State 91-62. I know Kansas State isn't very good, Skinny, but that's one of the most improbable scores we've seen this year out of the teams we cover for sure. Both games, they shot the ball well. You know, they just made shots, which we haven't really seen much from them this season.
No, you made a good point a couple of weeks ago, and it does hold true, that for whatever reason, after it feels like a death knell loss, and that West Virginia game felt like the complete death knell loss. I mean, the coach goes on the radio and cries. That just felt like, okay, that was it. This is the one that you know, NCAA hopes aside, you're just not even going to finish the season in any positive way, shape, or form. And yet here they come out the last two games. We'll get to how bad Kansas State is, but UCF is not bad. UCF is an NCAA tournament team at the moment. UCF was playing really good basketball, and you kicked their ass. And so for whatever reason, these guys keep responding in weird ways at weird times. And Wes Miller deserves the credit for that. He does not deserve credit for where the program is and where the program is gone, but he does deserve credit for that.
Just a couple of games ago, literally before the UCF game, we're saying his agent's got to get him out of there. He's going to embarrass himself too much the way this thing is spiraling. They've got to do something, and maybe that's overreactionary and short-sighted on our part, but Skinny, I mean, it looked really bad, and it looked like he was really struggling to deal with the mounting losses, and they come out and play two of their best games during his entire tenure. Quite honestly, the last two games they've played, it was interesting to me in the UCF game because they had a terrible stretch midway through the second half. And we've seen that from them this year, and it feels like when that hits, they can't get themselves out of it. And that other team just keeps going, and then they lose the game. But this time, it was very short-lived. They got back on track. They pushed their lead back up to 20 points, and that groaning and that uneasiness in the arena, it kind of subsided. It was like, oh, wait, who is this team all of a sudden? And then Kansas State, they just jumped them from the start. It was a blowout right away. They were insanely hot from three-point range. They went 16 of 28 for 57% in that game from beyond the arc. Anytime you shoot like that, you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, it must be noted that Kansas State is just simply horrifyingly bad.
Yeah, they're bad.
I can't remember who they played over the weekend. They were wearing their old school all purple with the light purple top, dark purple pants, which I really love. That brings me back to the Orlando Blackman days back in the late 70s, early 80s when they were playing 3-2 zone, and he was at the top of it. I always thought that was really exotic, and Jack Hartman was their coach, and they were good. But this team is bad. Their coach said they shouldn't even be in the uniforms, that they don't deserve to be playing for this program, and a lot of these guys won't find themselves in these uniforms. Jerome Tang, I don't think you'll find yourself on that Kansas State sideline either, because I think this is back-to-back years where they've spent a good chunk of money on the roster, right, and didn't get any results from it. I mean, he was a hot name the year they kind of beat Kentucky in the tournament, and he was kind of a hot name at the time, and then they spent good money on the rosters and have got nothing to show for it. I mean, P.J. Haggerty was probably a top 10 offseason signing, if you will, somewhere in that vein. And they're getting
it's a big deal.
Yeah, he's playing well. He's averaging like 23 a game, but they're awful. And so listen, you went on the road. You deserve the credit for winning on the road. The margin does nothing for me because you just beat the brains off of a team that's quit.
Yeah, and again, the way they shot the ball was really what stood out to me more than anything, just because there haven't been many games like that, not just this year, but in recent memory for UC fans. It does feel a little bit like a enjoy Sunday at home against Utah situation because the final 5 games are definitely going to be a bear for this team.
Well, one of them's not. They do play Oklahoma State at home, so that's they have one more winnable one down the stretch.
Yeah, winnable, but it's nothing guaranteed there.
Yeah,
I mean, you could definitely go 0-5 in that final stretch. None of them are going to be easy games, but at the same time, hey, they just played their 2 best games of the season, probably. What if Wes were to make a miracle run in the Big 12 tournament, Skinny? Do we have to have that conversation? If he, like, I'm not, obviously there's no reason to think they would do that right now, but is there any chance if he were to make a miracle run in the Big 12 tournament, what would you do? Like, do you consider bringing him back at that point?
No, I think this year was NCAA tournament or bust. And if he makes the NCAA tournament, then by all means, he deserves to come back.
But there's no way you'd feel good about that as a UC fan, right?
No, but I think if you're being fair about it, that was what I think every fan in the fan base had for a criteria was make the NCAA tournament. I mean, my God, Rick, they would have to somehow go through a gauntlet of accommodating not all of these teams, but Arizona, Houston, Kansas, Iowa State, Texas Tech, even BYU.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you got to the quarterfinals of this, you'd be a happy man. It's not going to be enough to save your job.
That's probably fair. All right. Xavier lost in overtime at Madison Square Garden to St. John's, 87-82. Another one of those games, Skinny, where you feel good about the overall performance, I think. The fact that they were in the game, the fact that they competed with a team that's better than them, more talented than them, physically superior to them. But then you feel terrible about the way it ended once again. You just watch a game slip through your fingertips. The end of game possession in regulation, the end of overtime possession you got, both of them were just brutal offensive possessions where they went nowhere, and you got a desperation heave, one from Trey Carroll, one from Philip Borovichinen. That's just kind of the way it's been with this team lately. Some games where you're competitive, where maybe you didn't think you would be, but ultimately a lot of tough losses.
Yeah, I mean, they start to add up too, and that's the thing. I mean, but you go back, and I'm scrolling just through the struggle for a minute. Go back to DePaul on the road. It was a winnable game. They lost by 9, but it was a winnable game. You lose by 1 to Marquette on the road. You lose by 1 on that missed free throw box out to Creighton. That last game to St. John's, you blew the double-digit second-half lead. This game to St. John's, you're in it and have chances in regulation and in overtime. And turn 3 of those around, and you're 15-9, as goofy as that sounds. I'm not asking you to turn all of them around. Turn 3 of them around.
Right. I think there's 8 games I counted that have come down to the final possessions this year. And, not saying it's necessarily a 1 possession final score, but you had an opportunity in the final minute maybe to be within 1 possession. And they're 3-5 in those games. So it's not as bad as the actual 1 possession record, where I think they're more like 1-4 or something like that. But you're right. I mean, in Big East play, there have been so many games where it's not like a maybe, or you were kind of close or in the ballpark. It's quite literally you had 1 or 2 plays that you just needed to be more solid on, and you maybe come away with a win. And then all of a sudden, not saying you're going to the tournament necessarily, but the season feels a lot differently if you've got a winning record and you're middle of the pack in the Big East and not slipping towards the bottom. That's just the way it's been, though. I talked to Byron Larkin on my Musketeer Report podcast about it yesterday, about what it's been like for him, because he went for almost 30 years with Joe of just calling fun seasons where you're trying to predict which seed you're going to get in the NCAA tournament. And now 2 of the last 3 years, they're talking about a team with a losing record potentially. And he said, yeah, it's definitely been hard. I have to remind himself that it is a job and he gets paid to do it, and you have to check your emotions occasionally. One interesting thing, I think the biggest storyline for Xavier fans right now coming out of the St. John's game is Anthony Robinson. He started the season as your center for the first few games. It went so poorly, you had to pull him and basically never play him again the rest of the season. I mean, a few minutes here and there, but basically he hasn't gotten on the floor much at all. He emerges, plays half the game against St. John's, gets 10 points, 4 rebounds. Looks like the player you kind of expect him to be coming into the season. Maybe not a dominant presence, but 3 dunks, just a big athletic guy that could contend with interior guys like St. John's has. What did you make of that, and what do you want to see out of him over the final several games? Yeah,
what I was going to ask you is, I wonder, is that something that they've seen in practice that he's earned? Was it out of desperation because you just had to match up the physicality and size and go, kid, go give it a shot? And then to his credit, I mean, listen, that's how opportunities are gained, right? When you're given a chance and you do perform well, you earn more opportunity. I mean, that's the way things go in life. And I just wonder, was that something they'd seen in practice, or was just literally desperation of, we just got to match up the size and physicality?
Well, they were in foul trouble too, right?
Well,
like three guys foul out in that game. Jovan Milicevic, Trey Carroll both got in early foul trouble, so they had to go a little bit deeper. But also, he's a guy that physically matches up a little bit better with a Zuby Ejiofor inside when there's nothing else you can do to stop him other than foul him. And so I think that was part of it. But look, Richard Pitino has been kind of defensive about this one, right? Like, everyone is throwing this in their staff's face of this was a huge miss. They paid him starter money towards the top of the roster money, and he's basically been unplayable. And that was a big setback for them. Part of the reason why they've had a lack of success this year. So, Richard Pitino came out after that game and was like, everyone wants instant gratification in this transfer portal era. And, sometimes it takes time for these big guys to develop. It's like, well, that's fine. But here's the deal. You paid him the money like he was going to produce that way this year. And that's part of the equation now. You can't have bad contracts. So I'm not saying it won't ever happen, but I'm saying, to your point about, did they see this coming? Well, if you ask them, sure. They've been like, we took him because we like his upside. We've been planning on developing. We knew it was going to take some time. It's hard to feel like that's a truthful answer necessarily, though, because they're defensive about it at this point.
Yeah, I'm not paying top dollar, big dollar for developmental guys. Sorry, that doesn't work that way in today's college basketball. If I'm paying good money, I'm paying good money for instant gratification. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
That's the way it is. And then it brings up a whole nother question of like, okay, you've got this guy, and it's fair to say young big men do take time to develop. There is upside and value in a young big man with great tools who has shown some glimmers but hasn't quite got it to click yet through his first 2 seasons of college basketball, mind you, with the transfer in there. But that being said, it's like, you can say all of that and that sounds good, but at the end of the day, like, if you're talking about going into next year's roster and how you're going to put that together and how you're going to allocate your funds, based on what we've seen, I said this on my Xavier podcast, I don't feel confident enough to give him anything more than like 8th man money.
Right. No, right. And that's fair.
You can't say he's a starter, and I don't even really want him to be like one of my first 2 options off the bench. I'd like to have better players than that. So if that means spending less on him or not being able to afford him going into next year based on what you paid him this year, I think I'd be just fine with that.
And that's why there's no way you're paying top money for developmental guy for this very reason. Because then if he does develop into something great, he may hop on you anyway.
Right. All right, NKU beat Milwaukee 67-62 on Saturday night to stop the 5-game losing skid. They needed it desperately. They play IU Indy tonight at IU Indy, and then they don't have another game until Wednesday. So kind of a big break in here, just one game in over a week's time. Skinny, what would this team need to do with 5 games left to make you believe in them in the Horizon League tournament?
Go 4-1, 3-2 at worst. Because 4-1, if you look at the logjam, I looked at it this morning, but I wanted to relook at it just now. You've got the top 2 seeds are not in play. 3 is still in play a little bit, but you got Green Bay with 6 losses, IPFW with 6 losses, and you still play them at home, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you still got a chance there to make up at least one game head-to-head. Robert Morris and Detroit both have 7 losses. NKU sits at 8. Cleveland State sits at 8, but Cleveland State has 1 less win. So you still can play your way very much into at minimum the 5 seed line in the conference tournament, maybe the 4. If you got really hot, the 3. And I think getting that 4 or 5 game would be huge for sure.
Yeah, well, it's a difference between a home game or not a home game, right? And currently right now, the way KenPom projects it out, they have NKU finishing 500 in conference play at 10-10. That would place them 6th. So just outside getting to host a first round game. But like you mentioned, you've got Robert Morris, Purdue Fort Wayne right in front of you. You're going to get to play Purdue Fort Wayne head to head at home. There is some opportunity to make up ground here, but it does feel like you almost need to be perfect at 5-0 or at least 4-1 down the stretch if you're going to slide into a top 5 seed.
I mean, tonight is winnable, obviously, even though it's on the road. It's winnable. Yes. You still have 2 home games, IPFW, Wright State to end the year. And then split that road swing up in Northeast Ohio with Cleveland State and Youngstown State. Or, again, possibly, it's not out of the realm to sweep that. I think it's hard to win. You're playing 2 road games on that swing, but you still won. 4-1 to me gets you in the spot where I think you get a home game.
So, to me, it comes down to this. You got to win the next 2. You got to beat IU Indy on the road. You got to beat Purdue Fort Wayne at home. Then you basically, can you win 2 of 3?
Right.
With the Cleveland State, Youngstown State game on the road, and then Wright State, which is the best team in the conference, at home.
Right.
Can you find a way to win 2 of 3 of those. If you do that, so we're talking about, 4-1 down the stretch, then I think you're in play for a top 5 seed and hosting a first round game. And I'd feel pretty good about their chances going into the tournament at that point.
Yeah, I think they're just too dangerous offensively. And you see those kind of teams make conference tournament runs. I know everybody talks about defense, but give me multiple scores in that scenario just because of I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It feels like it's contagious. 2 guys get hot, 3 guys get hot. A 4th guy's open because they're now worried about 2 or 3 guys, and that guy then gets hot. And so this team has the capability to do that. And the question is, do they have the capability to get enough stops? Sometimes other teams in conference tournament play, you're the higher seed, you're expecting to win. It's a one-bid league. You get the puckered butthole, and suddenly you're not making shots, and they are. You've seen it plenty of times.
You've seen it, but also your point about you'd rather have the offense, especially now. I don't know if this is a transfer portal era thing, if this is just this year in the Horizon League the way it is, but I don't think anyone's guarding. I mean, we've harped on NKU's defense struggling all season long. Skinny, they're second in defensive efficiency still, and they're playing fast on the offensive end. So it's not that's a trumped up number from them slowing the game down and grinding out like Mick Cronin.
No, that's the part of it. I mean, that's why some of the analytics are interesting because you look at the raw points allowed. It's at times embarrassing and kind of glaring. But if you're playing at a fast pace, you're going to have more possessions on both ends of the floor.
Right. And they showed the Milwaukee game especially. Those are 2 teams that play at 2 of the fastest paces in the conference, but then they played in this grinded out, just over 60 possession game. NKU comes out on top and wins that one with defensive stops down the stretch. So they have shown that they can play that style and be successful in a grinded out or a up-tempo game in the 90s or 100.
I think you'll agree with this, and the records bear it out. I mean, Wright State and Oakland are the 2 best teams. I think there's a separation there, and then whatever below that you can look at. But they're not dominant. It's not like there's this. I mean, the one Wright State team with the big doofus, that team was really, really good.
Loud and Love, yeah.
Yeah, that team was really good. That team was going to be hard to beat. And a couple of NKU teams were going to be really hard to beat. There's just not that team. Oakland, the one year they had some dudes was hard to beat. And they had the little guard that kicked Kentucky's ass. They were good. That was a good team.
Yeah, Jack Golke.
I just don't think there's any team that you go, I hope we don't play them.
I totally agree with you this year. I felt much more that way at the beginning of the season. I mean, if you remember, I was like, I think there's 6-7 teams that are going to be competing for a championship. And then Wright State clearly proved themselves as the most consistent. I feel like there's even a division right now in terms of talent and how much they scare you between Wright State and Oakland. I just think Wright State's more talented and more solid. But even Wright State, when you talk about who's leading the way for them, it's a sophomore guard in TJ Birch. It's a freshman point guard in Michael Cooper. It's a freshman forward in Kellen Pickett. A lot of young guys playing in postseason for the first time, playing a long Division I season for the first time. So who knows what happens with them down the stretch. And then the other one that I've really got my eye on, a little bit of conspiracy theory here for you, Skinny. Oakland, they've been good this season, but they've also, they just lost to Cleveland State in kind of an embarrassing fashion at Cleveland State. A few weeks ago, they lost to IU Indy at home in blowout fashion. IU Indy kicked their ass 103-85.
Who bet the first half lines? Who bet the first half lines in those games?
Well, I'm not even going there, but here's the thing. Their point guard, Brody Robinson, who if you look at the numbers is on track to be player of the year in the conference by every statistical category. He's been very impressive. All his efficiency numbers are off the chart. He leads the country in free throws attempted, fouls drawn. The Horizon League refs have been embarrassed by this little 5'8", 125-pound guard who's just manipulating them with head flares and everything he can do to draw a foul. A lot of it's 30 feet from the basket. He's nowhere. It's not like he's attacking it in the paint. I'm wondering, is there a certain point, because every head coach that's played Oakland has complained to the officials, they've called them out to the league office. Is there some point where the officials get told enough, hey, this is embarrassing for us. This little guy's shot way more free throws than anyone else in the country. Let's ease up on it a little bit. And all of a sudden, Oakland's now not going to the free throw line 15 to 20 more times than everybody else that they play.
I don't know this college rule, but it's now in high schools trying to be enforced that if you do the head jerk and it looks floppy, they'll bang you for it.
Well, it was a point of emphasis about 10 years ago in college basketball. Guys like Tu Holloway at Xavier were unbelievable at it. It became a big strategic thing to every time someone gets near you, jerk your head back. And it became a technical in the college game for a while. If you did it, They've completely gotten away from it though. No one does that anymore.
But that doesn't mean if you don't get a bunch of complaints and see a lot of film and the supervisor officials goes, he does this too much, guys. Here's a clip. Here's a clip. Here's a clip. Here's a clip. I don't want to see that in a conference tournament. We're not going to let that happen. To your point, you tighten that up and you go, sorry, he didn't get fouled.
I mean, think about this. NKU, they lost 76-65. It was a closer game than that. There was free throws down the stretch that let them pull away by double digits there, but it was 2 minutes. It was a one possession game. That one kid, Brody Robinson, drew 12 fouls on NKU with ever getting inside the 3-point line.
That's crazy.
If all of a sudden you take away that huge advantage that Oakland has, I don't know that they're good enough or consistent enough to beat everyone else because they don't guard. I mean, they gave 103 points to IU Indy a couple weeks ago. So just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the foul totals for Oakland going to the tournament. All right, that's enough Horizon League and NKU. Wrap it up with Kentucky here. They came back to beat Tennessee again, 74-71 at Rupp on Saturday night. They play at Florida this coming Saturday. 3 wins in a row now at Arkansas, the Oklahoma win, and now the Tennessee win. KenPom has them as an 11-point underdog on Saturday at Florida. Do you think they have a chance at that one?
I don't. I think Florida, the way Florida's playing at the moment, they are playing back to national championship capability. That front line is absurd. Boogie Fland is a legitimate point guard. They're well coached. I don't know why they struggled early in the year because they did have a lot of guys coming back. I mean, we're integrating a new point guard. I guess maybe that was part of it. And they played a pretty good schedule too. It feels like I gravitate towards them on Saturdays when one of the locals isn't playing more than I probably do any college team. I love the way I just like the way they play. I think they play tough. I love how they share the ball. They play both ends of the floor. I find them to be just outstanding. Do I think Kentucky can get them when they come back to Rupp at the end of the year? I think Kentucky can get them there. I just don't see them getting them at Florida. I think that's a big ask. Just go play well. Feel good about how you play at a good team. It's only one game in the standings, although at the moment, Kentucky is tied for second with Arkansas in the SEC. They're both just a game behind Florida, so technically you're playing to get into first place in the league. But, I mean, if they pull this one off, then Katie bar the door of where this team may go with it. I just can't. It's impossible to see that happen. And I don't even know if they cover.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the actual betting line is going to be. I mentioned KenPom has it as 11
right. That feels about
feels
right.
Really high, though. I can't imagine the betting line is going to be over double digits.
I don't know.
I'm thinking
man.
like 9.5, 8.5, something like that.
I mean, Kentucky finds itself in holes, and God love them for digging out of a bunch of holes. They dug out of one, they dug out of that one at Tennessee a few weeks ago. They dug out of that one at LSU. You ain't digging out of a big hole at Florida, man. You're not. It'll be like the Vandy game. It'll just snowball and look ugly.
Are we going to get a cardiac cats reference at some point this season?
For whatever reason, their comfort zone is being behind. It's almost like they decide now it's time to get stops and guard. Now let's have a really good offensive possession and attack the rim. They are one of the layup missingest teams I've ever watched in my lifetime. They miss a bunch of layups, but man, they do get to the rim a ton.
They do. Yeah, I mean, the last 3 wins are nice wins. Those were fun games to watch if you're a fan. They've won 8 of the last 9. Skinny, you mentioned they're sitting right there, second in the SEC standings. A lot of people are bumping Kentucky back up to the 6th line now. Yeah, they're sitting at a 7th in bracket matrix for the top 7 seed.
The top 7 seed in bracket matrix, yeah. But I've seen the other bracketologies, the main ones people look at, CBS Sports and Joe Lenardi's, and I think both of them have Kentucky on the 6th line.
A lot of people moving them back up to that 6th line. Tennessee, which is a game behind them in the standings and obviously has lost to them twice now, they sit on the 5 seed line right now. So I think there's some real upward mobility here down the stretch if Kentucky continues to play the way they are. That, I think a few weeks ago, people were starting to think this might be a lost season for them, and they could still even possibly be a protected seed, I think.
Well, we talked about this a little bit last week. Otega always playing the way he was rated when the season started as the SEC Player of the Year. I don't know if he is, but he's playing that way at the moment. And Colin Chandler just makes big play after big play after big play. I mean,
he's been fun recently.
He made 2 huge shots down at Arkansas, and obviously comes up with the clutch 3 on Saturday in the win over Tennessee. He's been consistent in double figures. He's making open shots again. He started the year playing really well. In fact, he was leading this team in scoring for a while, and then just hit kind of a rut like they all did. And now with so many injuries, they're forcing minutes. I think, believe it or not, the injuries suck. I think this is a better team with Jalen Lowe. I think it's a better team with Quaintance. But for whatever reason, it feels like the rotation now is kind of set, and everybody knows what the role is. The minutes are going to play. You don't have to worry about, hey, I'm coming out, not because of a mistake, just because it's time for me to come out, time for somebody else to play. No, you're having to play more minutes. I think it's goofy as it sounds. It's probably helped them in some regards.
I have 2 Ask Anything questions, but they're both college basketball related. Do you want them now or do you want them at the end?
No, we can do it now.
All right. Will you guys watch the new Bob Huggins documentary that's coming soon? Have you seen this?
I did not. What's it on? I will absolutely see it.
I'm not sure where it's being released on, but they've had Terry Nelson, I think, did an interview about it. And I saw a trailer for it, and it was interviewing a lot of his former players.
I think it'll be outstanding.
Yeah, I don't see anyone around here who wouldn't want to watch that, right?
I mean, even if you didn't like him or don't like the way he all those things, he's an interesting cat. I mean, there's
interesting. And if you're like a Xavier fan who hated him, almost all the reason more to watch it, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's going to be interesting, and he's going to say something wild about the Musketeers, you would think. So, this is going to be excellent. I'm really looking forward to it.
I mean, I wonder if they do play the interview with Bill Cunningham as one of the slip ups.
You mean the most recent one with the dildos and everything? Yeah. I kind of doubt it. I'm going to guess it focuses more on the actual coaching days, but who knows?
You got to show some warts, don't you?
Yeah, but there's plenty of warts to show throughout the coaching days too. I don't know if they're going to go that modern or not. It looked more like an olden day flashback type.
It sounds fascinating to me. Absolutely, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Then this one is: do conference tournaments have value still outside of the Power Four conferences? Seems like they should just take the regular season champs.
As a revenue generator, that's all it really has ever been. I mean, the one bid league. That's why I love the one bid league start of all of these. Right, like just the intensity of semifinal games in those one bid leagues and in those final games. I literally glue myself to those one bid league championship games. I can't glue myself to a quarterfinal round of the Big East or a quarterfinal round of the SEC. I mean, unless it's a local team playing, obviously I'm going to watch those. I still like conference tournament championship games, but it holds no. I mean, I think the committee's even talked about they don't move team seed lines much, if at all, based on conference tournament results.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually almost feel the opposite, like in terms of how much I care. I don't really care about the power conference tournaments much at all. Now, there ends up being some good games by the time you get to like the semis and the final. So I still watch them just for good basketball. But I really don't follow or care how teams are doing. Because like you said, it's not that your seed line really isn't that dependent on what you're doing in your conference tournament. We've seen that year in and year out. I love watching the one bid leagues, the non-Power Four conferences, and their postseason tournaments because it is so intense. It means so much. Also, being in one of those leagues, being so involved in one of those leagues like the Horizon League, I do get the standpoint of no one shows up to these things like for the Horizon League. It's out at the Indiana Fairgrounds, just dump of an arena. I do hear they're moving it, but for right now, it's at this dump arena. No one shows up. And ultimately, I do understand the idea of, hey, the team that played best all year long and has the best chance to represent us well should probably be the team playing in the NCAA tournament. I kind of agree with that from like a merit standpoint.
Yes.
But from a fan standpoint, it's like all those, like a year like this where Wright State feels like they're clearly the best team in the league and Oakland's second in line, and then there's a gap. For the rest of these teams, if we were just going with the team that wins the conference, season would have been over 3 weeks ago, and there'd be really nothing to care about in a one bid league.
No, I mean, the thing in the one bid leagues you're battling all season for is positioning to give yourself the best chance to make that run. And I think that gets interesting.
It does get interesting because I do think there's a little more wiggle room to play it differently. Like we've seen Darren Horton year after year say, for us, it's about 3 days in March, or now it's going to be 4 days in March. But like, he's like, we try to play our best at the end of the year. And he actually lives that way. Like there are times during the regular season when he'll bench a starter and just not play him at all. Or he does crazy things with lineups. And it's because they're trying to maximize their value for the end of the year. They're not trying to peak early and win every single game because it matters for seeding purposes. It's like, well, we're just trying to peak at the end of the year.
Yeah, right.
And I think you see more of that at the lower level. So it makes it more fun.
Yeah. And it's funny. I love tournament anything, to be quite honest with you. I really do, especially when it holds significance. And in those one bid leagues, it really holds significance.
It does. Now, I won't necessarily argue with this person that no one shows up to these things a lot of times. Right. And it probably makes sense to go with the best team from the league and just put them in. But I don't want that from a fan standpoint. I want the tournaments.
Yeah, listen, the Ivy League was probably, I think they were the last holdout, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they were.
And now they've decided, let's have a tournament too.
You just miss out on too much in the lead up. That's when everyone is paying attention to college basketball. And it's like, you're just not even going to play games and represent your league at all. That makes no sense. All right. Well, let's do a Super Bowl recap first, and then we'll talk Bengals. How about that? Seahawks beat the Patriots 29-13. Kenneth Walker III was named MVP after he rushed for 135 yards. Kicker Jason Myers set a Super Bowl record with 5 successful field goals. So here's what I really want to know from you, Skinny. There was that conversation going on Twitter, if you were watching the game late, of like, are they going to give a kicker the MVP here? They go with Kenneth Walker. I think most people felt that was the right choice. But if you are the kicker on a Super Bowl winning team, do you even want the MVP award?
I don't think your teammates probably want you to have it because they've done all the blood, sweat, and tear work while you just came in, trotted in, and booted. Now, listen, they do appreciate you if you're the guy that's the difference in the win or loss, right? But
sure.
Yeah, no. Honestly, if Kenneth Walker was the right MVP, and I'll give you a quick one here in a second. But honestly, if I had a vote, Devin Witherspoon would have got my vote. I mean, I thought he was a huge difference maker for them.
The thing is, it felt like you almost had to go defense for them, but it's hard to pick one guy from the defense because there wasn't like the pick six moment or the game changing defensive moment. It was just a continuous dominant performance by the entire defense for them. So I think it made it hard, but that's like, we've never been in the situation that I can remember where it actually felt like the kicker kind of, based on what's happened in this game, you could definitely say the kicker is the MVP and he kind of deserves it. But yeah, if you're the kicker, it's like, I don't put that on me, man. These guys are the actual players. They're going to look at me and make fun of me for this. I don't want to be the MVP. Yeah. So it kind of worked out for him that Kenneth Walker got his yardage.
So I do put my money where my mouth is. I did do what I told you I was going to do betting wise. I took Seattle on the money line and the under, and I took the Patriots and the points in the under. So I lost about $20 on that exchange. I did make a bet on Christian Gonzalez to win MVP. I did make a bet on Nick Emenwari to win MVP. I did make a bet on JSN to win MVP. But I won a college basketball game earlier in the day by the skin of my teeth. I had under in there was a noon Big Ten game. I'm drawing a blank. It's Penn State and somebody, and they miss a three at the buzzer to keep it under. And I'm like, I got $50 of house money, so I put another 25 on JSN, and at 8-1, I put 25 on Kenneth Walker to win the MVP at 8-1.
Nice. So it saved you, huh?
Saved me, yes.
Got you out of there. Yeah, I had a terrible night betting, as I always do with the NFL. I've never bet anything well when it comes to the NFL. Just honestly a terrible Super Bowl, though. How boring was it?
Yeah, no, it was, but I think John Schneider is a brilliant general manager. I think he shows you in Seattle what can be done if you're willing to take risks and you know what the hell you're doing. I mean, let's face facts. 3 years ago, he trades the face of the franchise, Russell Wilson, who he led them to a Super Bowl, and John Schneider built that Super Bowl team as well. Built this team that got to the Super Bowl and lost on the interception too. But so he had the guts and foresight to do that. He then had the guts to say, you know what, Pete Carroll, it's just time for a new voice. Let's move in a different direction. And where everybody else is hiring these new offensive whiz play caller guys, right? That's where got to hire the new hot offensive coach. He said, the hell with that. Let me hire a defensive coordinator and go that route. So he hires Mike McDonald. And then he has the guts to say, I got JSN. I got my Jamar Chase. I don't need my T. Higgins. I'm going to go ahead and get draft capital for DK Metcalf and use that money on other places. And then he drafted brilliantly. He built brilliantly. And voila, they're a Super Bowl champ. I got to be honest, Rick, they weren't one of those ones where you're like, gosh, how did they get – they were pretty dominant over the last – they were 14-1 in their last 15 games. Only 4 teams went over 300 yards on them. 2 of those were the Rams, which I think it's more of a tip of the cap to the Rams offense. The Rams had over 500 in the game and close to 500 the other. Arizona barely went over 300 yards, and the Patriots had 84 going to the fourth. They got over 300 yards, but primarily in garbage time. I mean, that's dominance to me. But it shows you when you have the right guy in place willing to make tough decisions, you can do some great things. That's why I just have pause for this organization in Cincinnati.
Was the NFL down this year, or did the big time quarterbacks just not, you had injuries and guys that didn't perform and their teams didn't get there, or what? Because like I get what you're saying about Seattle being dominant on defense, whatever, but like, let's face it, neither one of these teams are what we typically expect out of Super Bowl teams. And I think that's because they didn't have the star quarterbacks.
Well, the other part to it was, though, if you look, they were also pretty damn good offensively. They scored at least 29 points in all 3 of their postseason games, although I guess 22 in this game because 7 came on defense. Sam Darnold had a weird year, but they also hit a lot of explosive plays. I think that's the other part to this too, is you just can't have a team that just simply drives. You got to have teams that have explosive plays. They had a lot of explosive plays, and so I do think they were a dominant team on both sides. I just think they snuck up on us because we just didn't see it coming until you look at the body of work and go, damn, they were good.
I guess maybe the thing is we're spoiled because we had the Patriots with Tom Brady that seemed so damn good for so long. And you had the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. And so you had these kind of dynasties that were impressive teams with a lot of players that stood out for a period of time that we got to know. I find it hard to believe we think like this Seahawks team would stack up against like the Chiefs era run or the Patriots era run.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they're that type of team. It's just it's hard for a team without a real quarterback to be put in that same conversation, I think, ultimately. And that's what it comes down to is both these teams got in without a stud quarterback.
Yeah, but let's not forget, Sam Darnold was a number 1 overall pick. And maybe the problem
sure.
But listen, go back.
A long time ago.
Maybe him, flaming out in New York had more to do with the Jets. I think as you're looking over time, that's a poorly run franchise.
Sure, but it's not,
he played.
It's not like he balled out or anything in the playoffs or in the post. It's not like he was the reason.
No, but he also played hurt. I mean, to his credit, he played hurt. He had a good regular season. I mean, he had a really good regular season. So
sure, but he's not Pat Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady.
No, he's not a tier 1 quarterback. I will give you that part of it.
There we go.
But I think the last couple of Super Bowls have taught us there's more than one way to do this. You maybe don't have to have the ultimate star quarterback. You built a defense in Philly that had multiple guys who could rush the passer in different ways. I think that's what you're seeing now is you better have interior pass rush and a defense. The star quarterback, I do think he matters if you have him, but I don't know if he's the total difference maker anymore.
So all the things you've just laid out are basically you should be willing to turn over your coaches when you feel like it hasn't moved quickly enough. You should be willing to get rid of a second top pass catching option to get more draft capital and shore up other places. You definitely need to fix pass rush and specifically interior pass rush, which is something the Bengals have completely neglected over the last few seasons. Basically everything you just laid out is kind of like the opposite direction of what the Bengals are going in. So you also said something that I agree with, which is there are multiple ways to do this, multiple ways to win. Would you say that after watching what Seattle just did, you feel like way more pessimistic about the Bengals' direction, or where do you come out on it from that perspective?
Well, so I will invite people to go read this, and I'm doing another one. So the Athletic has this exercise where they give you the salary cap number. They explain why. They do a spreadsheet where you can go sign free agents. And so I always enjoy that exercise. It's an easy column to do. And so I did that exercise last week. And after I made some salary cap cuts and the salary cap money I had at the time, they only gave you $35 million. They didn't factor in the NFL actually was estimated to have $293 million. Then they came out and said it would probably be closer to $301 million. They actually bumped it up this week. So I tried to stay within those parameters. But the first guy I went and signed was a defensive tackle, John Franklin Myers. I'm like, I got to have a defensive tackle who can go rush the passer. That to me is it doesn't matter. I'll go get that guy in the draft too, but I'm getting that dude in free agency. And so that was really a top priority for me. And I'll have this up at local12.com probably later today. Well, it will be later today. Definitely if you're watching this on Friday, it'll be up already. I do one where if you restructure Joe Burrow's contract, you can get maybe another 12. They give you another $12 million. I'm not telling you what this is. These are not exact numbers, right? They're playing with numbers, but it gives you another $12 million. I was able to go get an edge and a defensive tackle and a safety and a veteran linebacker and a veteran slot corner that probably will play behind the guy I'm going to draft in the first round at slot corner, Mansour Delane from LSU. I took all my capital basically and said, I'm throwing it to the defense. If I have a little bit left over, I had a little bit left over to go sign a swing tackle on offense. Derek Wills, who's didn't thrill me, but again, I'm using him as a backup swing tackle. He started both games in this league at both left and right tackle. He's had injury issues. If he's healthy, that's fine. I mean, I cut TJ Slayton. I cut BJ Hill. I just went to the point of I'm loading up on refixing this defensive line and refixing it through free agency and through the draft. The second round, I took a kid out of Clemson or out of Georgia, defensive lineman who's more of a nose tackle type. I want 2 deep at nose tackle. I want 2 deep at 3 technique. I want 4 pass rushers. I vacillated on taking because Reuben Bain was available. So I would have had Reuben Bain. I'd signed free agent Draymond Jones. I got Shamar Stewart. And I got Miles Murphy. That's 4 deep at pass rusher. You can argue where Shamar Stewart stacks in that list, but he's in the mix, obviously. I was 4 deep at edge at one point. I'm like, no, I want the slot corner. I want 3 just kick-ass corners. I signed a safety, Kobe Bryant, in both exercises. That's where the kind of the money landed, and some of the guys who were higher priced than him just didn't
Super Bowl winning Kobe Bryant, right?
Correct. He just, the money that was attached to him just felt better than some of the guys like Harrison Smith at 10 or 11. No, he's at the back end. I'm not paying that kind of money for a Harrison Smith. Kyle Duggar was about similar to Kobe Bryant. But my priority was fixing the defensive line. Go get the passer.
Speaking of that, Jay Glazer tells me that the Bengals might franchise tag Trey Hendrickson again. So there's your pass rusher right there, right, Skinny? Do you think that's going to happen?
No. That was over the weekend when that came out from numerous reports. That's obviously the agent ginning that up of the Bengals were interested in maybe franchise tagging him and then trading him. And I even wrote a column on this on Tuesday. And my lead was if I told you there's an NFL edge rusher on the open market who's going to turn 32 years old next year, missed 10 games due to injury and had surgery, and had 4 sacks in the 7 games he did play, how much is he worth? And I hate question mark leads. Those are taboo in journalism. I don't even think I did. I think I phrased it as a sentence and not a question mark, but that was the essence of it. And I
Break
said
the rules.
I said, you're not paying $30 or $34 million, whatever the franchise tag number comes out of what they would pay Trey Hendrickson. You're really telling me you just paid him what was it this past year? They restructured the contract, $29 million for him to give you that and coming off surgery, and you're going to tag him at 34. Well, tag him and trade him. It's easy. Well, you better have a trade partner who's also willing to pay that kind of money for him, or you may be stuck with it.
Well, that's the thing. If someone's willing to trade for him right now, it ain't going to be for that contract.
Right.
Like they want the discount. They want you to eat some of that if you're going to take him off your hands. He's damaged goods right now.
And that's why just let him hit the open market. The time has come and gone. It was a great signing. He gave you everything he had. He was great for you. He now is coming off surgery and he's going to turn 32 and he had all of 4 sacks in 7 games.
Last year was the time to do it. You messed that up. You missed it. And now it is what he is. You just got to swallow it and move on. Yeah, no. And honestly, on the open market, I think the Spot Rack that they do a valuation of a player. They valued him at 2 years, $50 million, an average of $25 million. Pro Football Focus, I think, had him at 1 year, $21 million with 17 guaranteed. That feels more right to me. Yes.
Like, I don't think he's getting 30 some odd $1 million on the open market. So why would you attach a tag to that? Where if you tag him and you have a trade partner that's dumb enough, you got to do all this kind of simultaneous. Like we'll tag him. He's going to sign the tag. We'll trade him to you for whatever, 4th round pick, whatever the hell it is. But is somebody really going to be willing to eat that money?
No, why wouldn't they just wait and sign him on the open market for less? I mean,
that's why I thought that was one of the dumbest things I've heard.
Yeah, I just don't see a way in which that's a real report or that's a reality that plays out at any point.
I trust the reporting because you know who it came from.
His agent. Right, but I mean, like, that's what I mean by saying it's a real report. To me, that's not a real report. When you take one side who clearly has a biased interest in a story and you just take their spin zone and put it out there, you're doing PR for someone because you need information from them down the line, which is fine. But
yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. We already did our Ask Anything. So Reds, pitchers and catches reported this week. Position players are due in this weekend, but it looks like all of them pretty much are already there, except for maybe Ellie, maybe a couple other stragglers. First full squad workout is on Monday. We talked about the addition of Eugenio Suarez last week, that kind of being the big storyline going into spring training. But now that it's here, Skinny, is there any other storylines that have your interest as we get ready for these first few weeks, which always, it's kind of like a get ready to wait type of moment for me with spring training. It's like the excitement is here because they're back, but at the same time, this is really one of the most boring times of the year in the sports calendar, if we're being honest, from baseball.
And for this team, it feels like it's a pretty set team at the moment, except for the 5th spot in the starting rotation. I'll be fascinated where that goes.
The one last spot.
Rhett Lauder's coming off the injury, was great, obviously, towards the end of the 2024 season. Chase Burns is probably more electric, and some analytics would suggest that he's probably the better of the two pitchers on some advanced analytics stuff. I'm a big Rhett Lauder fan. I think the kid just knows how to pitch. He's got good stuff on top of it. The thing for that would be, I think, who outpitches the other. And I hate to do that with spring training, right? Because you're also working on stuff. So like one day you may just say, I just want to get my arm going. Let's throw 95% fastballs and go from there, and we'll work on other stuff down the road. I'm fascinated with that. But I think the good part is whoever loses out on that battle is going to be back here at some point. I mean, you need to be 6, 7, 8, 9 deep in your starting rotation. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, we've seen that. Guys are going to get hurt. You're going to need multiple starters to get through a season without a doubt.
Hasn't gotten through a full season. Nick Lodolo hasn't gotten through
definitely
a full season. Andrew Abbott hasn't gotten through full season. So you're going to need them.
Yeah. So you're going to need all of them, but it is interesting to see who's going to start out in that fifth spot, I guess.
Yeah. No, I just think it's been so interesting to see how downtrodden we all were before the Suarez signing, and now the optimism, and rightfully so. I think
I'm guilty.
It's good that you got that now.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like, it just felt so hard to get excited about basically the exact same roster. It's like, at least you addressed your need.
Yes.
You know, it may not work out. It's probably not enough. I fully understand that, but at least you did something to address the need.
And there's always going to be Jimmy smartass out there if this doesn't work. And so I told you you never should have signed Suarez at his age. But no, you know what? 98.9% of the fan base and those in the media and et cetera were calling for a signing like this. So nobody, if this doesn't work out, it wasn't the wrong signing. It just wouldn't have worked out. This was the right signing.
This is the right signing. The other side of it is you just can't do enough to get where you need to go.
No, right.
That's right. Major League Baseball, the way it's constructed. And that's a reality of the sport. But at least you did something that changes your lineup. And that's why I'm got a little bit of hope going into this. Let's go back to the Super Bowl real quick. Yep, I'm hopping around here, but I did want to ask you, did you have a favorite commercial from the Super Bowl?
You know, it's funny. I tuned out on most of them. I was reading stuff online, and honestly, I think during most commercials, I tuned out. It's funny to me because I didn't watch the halftime show, not because I'm anti-Bad Bunny. I don't know Bad Bunny. Honestly, I've never heard I've never heard a song in my life. If he'd have sung it in English, I wouldn't have known any of those songs. So I chose at that point, not because of the halftime show, not because of what Bad Bunny is or any of the politics surrounding it. I'm like, it's the perfect time to take out the garbage. I got to get the garbage together. Good time to take out the garbage. Let me go do that. By the time I got done with that, came back in, we had fixed. It wasn't even a main course, but the main course of appetizers was coming out at that point. So I'm like, let me do that, make a drink. By the time I did it, the show was over. Second half's getting ready to start, and here we go.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that, the way we reacted to that. I mean, a bunch of people who genuinely don't care about music at all, oftentimes probably don't watch the Super Bowl halftime show, and definitely don't care about Bad Bunny, all up in arms and have very serious opinions about Bad Bunny's halftime Super Bowl performance because of politics. I mean, just the most bizarre thing we've ever done.
I've known of his name. I just
same.
His music's not my music, man. It just is.
I mean, also it's fine. He doesn't speak our language. There's no problem with that. I don't listen to most songs that aren't in our language. I don't think that's a rare thing. Who cares?
So, if you watch much Olympics,
a little bit. Actually, I was gonna say one of the Olympic commercials. Real quick, let me say this about the commercials. Everyone loves to just rip on commercials now and say the commercials suck every year.
Yes.
I think we're kind of back with the commercials. This is like last year, I thought they were horrible. Like I couldn't remember one or two commercials that I liked. This year, there were like 15 commercials at least that I thought were pretty damn good. I think there's some more humor coming back into them.
The Duncan one was good, but some of the humor probably went over people's heads just because there were so many inside jokes that you had to be a certain age to get most of the inside jokes.
Yes, but they spanned a pretty good range because there were ones for like, I think my parents' age people, my age in there.
No, you're right.
If you're going to do a commercial with just the cameo references, that's how you do it right there. Do a bunch of them, do big names, funny references.
And I'm going to be willing to bet you they didn't pay top dollar for all those people. Like those people genuinely enjoyed doing a quick commercial like that.
Yeah, it was a great concept, great commercial. I thought the Pepsi Zero, I'm a Coke Zero guy. You know that. I'm a Coke Zero guy, but the Pepsi Zero commercial was really good. Starting up that, the polar bears coming back.
Hear me out. I heard an account executive on one of the local stations interviewed this week why she hated that commercial. And she made a great point. Coke can come back with something similar next year where the bear comes out of hibernation and said, I had the weirdest dream where I taste tested these two things and somehow I thought Pepsi was better. What am I thinking? I'm like, that's a brilliant retort. If they do that, that would be a brilliant retort in my opinion.
So that would be, but that's great. That's good market. When you get back in the wars, Coke and Pepsi used to be in these wars and they had good commercials going back and forth at each other. The reference to that the CEO getting caught with his spouse at the concert in the Pepsi commercial, that was hilarious with the polar bears. That was really well done. It was like you got a modern pop culture reference in there. I thought all of it worked. Then they had the callback. They went back to the Super Bowl and they had like the 3D image of the polar bears up in the stands drinking the Pepsi Zeros.
Yep.
I thought it was really good. The Novartis, the tight ends prostate cancer blood test. Did you see that?
I did not see that one.
They had all the famous like NFL tight ends, former NFL tight ends. They'd be in tight jeans. They're showing their butt and they're all clenched up. And it was like basically like, you can relax. Don't have a tight end relax because you now just got to prick your finger for the prostate test. It was I thought that was a good commercial. Made me remember what it was for. And then the Xfinity Jurassic Park of like,
I didn't see that one either.
all we needed was the internet to work. The connectivity needed to work at Jurassic Park, and you would have just had this wonderful, beautiful park that everyone would have loved. And they played out like the alternate reality of Jurassic Park. It was great. So there are a couple that really stood out to me, but there was like 15 of them that I thought were pretty good commercials, honestly. I liked them. Anyway, go back. What were you going to say before all that?
No, I said if you watch much Olympics.
The flag football commercial too. I thought that was an iconic commercial where he threw the football and lit up the torch. That would have been like a hit back when I was a kid. So I've watched a little bit of it after the Super Bowl, but that's about it.
Okay. Now I watched speed skating and have a new crush. She's married with a child, but my goodness, Francesca Lola Brigida from Italy, who won gold. Oh my word, people. Go look her up.
Ooh. Francesca what?
Lola Brigida. She's the great niece of famous actress Gina Lola Brigida. Her in the speed skating outfit and uniform is
I see where you're coming from.
It's noteworthy. Very noteworthy. For goodness sakes. And she won gold. And it was dramatic. It was gold. So actually it was pretty cool. So she was getting ready to go in her heat. And that's when I first saw her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's striking. And they had the camera like down on the thing as she's lacing up her skate, looking up at her. And the crowd and they're playing the song Volare. And she's singing along with it like she didn't have a care in the world. And she's about to go for gold. I went, this is kind of cool. Like she's that chill to be just kind of bebopping along to this song before she tries to go win gold in her home country. And then she goes out and wins it. It was actually really cool in my opinion.
I was about to say she looks like one of your current coworkers, one of my former coworkers, but after you've talked about how attractive this lady is, I feel like I probably shouldn't bring that up. So I'll just tell you off air.
It's probably going to be an HR violation. So
yeah, that's why I caught myself before I said it, but I was like, she looks like so, and I was about to say she looks like so, and so I was like, probably not a good idea after the way you've talked about her. So
no, it was, but I mean, not just because of how attractive I think it was just a cool thing. Just watching how she was just so relaxed. Her kids, her little child's in the stands with her husband, and she had to sweat out 4 more heats of really good skaters to win the gold because she set, they do it set on time. It was actually, I haven't watched much. I've watched some of the downhill skiing just because it still fascinates me to watch people go down a mountain 80 miles an hour just on skis. It's insane. It's still the most insane
blowing up
thing
her body.
Yeah, that was god awful.
Brutal.
Awful. And I'll probably end up watching the hockey. I mean, those are always dramatic.
Are you an Olympics guy, you would say?
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
No, I'm not even summer Olympic basketball guy for the most part. I'll watch some of this. This past year was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, agreed. All right, that's all we got.
Appreciate it very much. We'll be back next week. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming as always. For Rick Brewing, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly potpourri edition presented by Blake, the Attorney Mason.